Ladies and gentlemen, when I came to this debate, I had two options before me, and I came without a piece of paper. One was to deliver a political speech, the type of political speeches which perhaps we should make in Parliament if we ever got an opportunity to do so. The other option before me was to participate in a debate. In other words, be a little more quirky. Do not necessarily follow a rigid political line. And I think because Manishankar Iyer rigged the system so that he follows me rather than precede me, I think I will participate in a debate for the moment. And I'll go back to the empire, not to Nehru, another of my passions. And with the empire, there used to be an institution called Haileybury. I think certain people in the NDTV might know it because their people may have been even educated in Haileybury. And it was sort of like a Rao study circle, for those who remember it. And one of the first things which was taught in Haileybury to those who came out to India was a simple dictum that for everything which is true about India, the opposite is equally true. And when we talk about the idea of India, which my friend Manish Tiwari celebrated with great aplomb, I just want to ask him one question. This idea of India, which you are so fixated upon, which you think has been subverted since 2014, why is it in the singular? Why? One idea of India? A billion people? A million mutinies? One idea of India. And I think that's really what it is. This shows a mental regimentation of a person who believes that what is an Indian? Maruf asked that very pertinent question. What is an Indian? And he gave also, I believe, pertinent answers to that. But if you ask some of them, if you ask Manish, he'd say, well, an Indian is the one who has an Indian passport. Well, I can tell you there are a lot of people who have Indian passports who wouldn't classify as Indians. And I'm not talking about invasions. So the idea that everything that is about the essence of India can be captured in the Constitution, the very words which Manish used. The Constitution. It's a rule book. What is the Constitution? It tells us how we conduct our public life. It's very important. It's absolutely important that we conduct our public life according to certain norms. But would our idea of India suddenly get subverted if tomorrow we decide to abolish the Rajya Sabha? Is it so fragile a commodity, the idea of India, that it has to be written in one book? And that is precisely the idea that needs to be recreated. That India is singular. That India has no plurality. That is what needs to be, that has to be challenged. And that has to be challenged because there are people who have fixated themselves that there is a presiding deity of India who governed this country from 1947 to 1964, and his India must be preserved and there. And of course, there are times when in 1976, you can actually say, well, the essence of the preamble can also be changed by adding in a few more words like socialism. It can be changed by adding in secularism. Next, I don't know what else can be added in. So this is essentially it. It's so spiritual, we were told. India is a spiritual country because in one book which was written without any reference books as aid, it was said that India is spiritual. Now, I would want you to also look at what Mr. Nehru said when he inaugurated Chandigarh. And Pawan Verma in his book has mentioned this quite vividly. He said, I'm so glad Chandigarh has been made by Mr. Corbusier. And because it was so glad that it doesn't take into anything which is old. Because the modern India must start afresh. It must not carry any of the baggage of the past. Spiritual country? I don't know. Somewhere along the thing, this mad quest of modernity, which takes into account that life began with the Constitution. We call Mahatma Gandhi the father of the nation. Mahatma Gandhi was a great man. He was the leader of the freedom struggle. He was also a great spiritual guide for Indians. But did India begin in 1947? You can call Mahatma Gandhi the father of the republic if you want to. But the nation precedes it. And their problem is that they want to reduce India to one idea, one family, and preferably one book and one party. And that's what we want.
Swapan, thanks so much for that. And the very interesting idea on the abolition of the Rajya Sabha, and at least 4 panelists here have all been part of the Rajya Sabha. But that's one idea perhaps which we hope won't get picked up. But go ahead. Pawan Verma, you've been very silent. Why haven't you asked any questions so far? Okay, but no questions. Maruf, go ahead.
Mr. Dasgupta, I've been a long-standing admirer of your writing. But I must take issue with 2 points that you've raised. One is that, can you abandon the baggage of the past as you have referred to it? And I don't think all the baggage of the past that we have is necessarily bad baggage. But can you abandon the baggage of the past by turning the ways that our people do business and the ways that people go about their daily lives by turning us overnight into a digitized economy?
No, who said that? I mean, this is a very unique suggestion you've made. My argument has always been that life did not begin in 1947.
Sure.
Life began earlier. It encompasses a great deal of inheritance, some of it positive, some of it negative. And therefore, when we talk about India, if you try and categorize it into one monolithic, dogmatic category, India is not a dogma. That's the important thing it is. India is not a book which has to be amended every now and then. India is a continuum. It is an experience. It is a totality. I might agree with Manishankar's view of what that India is. I might not. But he is equally entitled to have that view just as I have. But the moment they try and codify it, just as half the problems of Indian secularism started, not prior to 1976, but after it, when they started to codify it and say, we need to define it. The moment you start defining it, there is a singularity of and you have these problems. And therefore, I don't think you can necessarily digitize the whole process. You can try it. It's worth an experiment, but I don't think it's going to succeed.
I just add on, and I want to add for the benefit of our listeners here, that not all of us think that Pandit Nehru is solely responsible for defining modern India, right? He had a role to play, and I've said that when I was speaking, and therefore, I don't think I would like people to go away with the impression that all of us who oppose the subject of the debate are necessarily Nehruvians.
Well, thank you for that very invaluable clarification, Maruf. And I think I just want to make a point that I'm very uncomfortable calling him Pandit Nehru. I just don't like, talking about caste prefixes to anything. I think I'll stick to him as Sri Nehru or Mr. Nehru.
Right.
And I think we'll take his call. But it's very interesting that he's always called Pandit Nehru by some people.
Well,
why?
So
Ask yourself that question. Is it Pandit because of a caste, or do they think he's the ultimate repository of wisdom?